Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining. It's 8 o'clock now, and welcome all of you to the ISKCON of New Jersey Zoom channel. And we are very, very excited, and it's our distinct honor and pleasure to welcome His Grace Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu to address us this evening. So for those of you who do not know, His Grace Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu is a disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So, Hare Krishna, thank you very much for joining. It's 8 o'clock now, and welcome all of you to the ISKCON of New Jersey. There's an echo there. Sorry about that. That's the YouTube live that's also going on, so a little bit of a delay on there. Okay, and so Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu has a BA in philosophy from the University of Pennsylvania. It's one of the Ivy Leagues university in 1966, and he holds a PhD in theology of religion from Temple University in 1980. In 1971, he became a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and in his decades of service to ISKCON, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu has served as the Temple President of Philadelphia, and for many years as the governing body commissioner, which is the highest authority in ISKCON. And he is presently continuing his service as a teacher and an author and a lecturer. And he's published a number of articles and books and essays on Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy and ISKCON. Some scholarly, all of them are very scholarly ones. Some of them, I just mentioned one, is Radha Krishna Chaitanya, the inner dialectic of the divine relativity, published in Journal of Vaishnava Studies. And his most recent publication, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, is the GBC foundational document and culminates 6 years of research of the history and import of Srila Prabhupada's title, Founder Acharya. So currently, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu is residing in Stuyvesant Falls, where he is writing and teaching full-time. Of course, it gives me personally great pleasure to welcome Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu because he has been instrumental in my own spiritual development since, and I was very young when I started going to the Philadelphia Temple back in '93, and I used to listen to his lectures. He also came to Temple University, where I attend, and he gave a number of lectures there. And when I got married, at the wedding, he gave us some very important advice to incorporate 4 things Srila Prabhupada taught, chant Hare Krishna, offer, serve the deities, and so on. And we tried to implement that in life, and it's given us great satisfaction in 20 years of marriage. And of course, he also performed our wedding. So thank you very much, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, for being here with us. We are extremely excited. So with that, we can get started with the program. Let me see if I can unmute. If you can unmute yourself, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, somehow it got muted. Trying to unmute. Okay. There we go. Oops.
Towaco.
Sorry, seems to be some technical issue with the muting. Okay, I think we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Am I muted or unmuted? Okay.
We can hear you now. Go ahead. Thank you.
It's a mute point, devotees. Okay, should I just start?
You can start, or you can do kirtan, whatever you like. It's
Do a little kirtan. You can do it.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll have about a 3-minute kirtan to get started. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Taigo Pranande, Hari. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Hari.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I'd just like to talk a little bit about the real basics of Krishna consciousness, which is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and following the four regulative principles. These two things. And a lot of times people tend to think of this process and the process of the regular principles, to think of the regular principles as principles of morality. You know, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no eating, no gambling. These are called, you know, not performing sinful activities. And so we think of them as strictly moral principles. But really, if you think of them that way, it's almost like, yeah, if you're pious, you go to heaven, and if you're sinful, you go to hell. But they're more than moral principles. They're principles of knowledge. They're principles of cognition. They make it possible to have actual direct perception. Pratyaksha. This word, is it here? Yeah, it's here in the ninth canto, not ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, you know, I have the text. Remember, he says about what he's telling Arjuna, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam, Susukam Kartam Avyayam. So this knowledge that he's describing, and this knowledge is called Raja Vidya. It's the royal knowledge, the king of education, Prabhupada says here, where he translated. And Raja Guhyam, the most secret of all secrets. It's confidential. Guhyam, sometimes that word is used. And Prabhupada says confidential means not everybody will be able to appreciate it. But it's, yeah, you can't go to a university, advanced classes in physics. Not everybody can appreciate that either. You know, it's in one sense, it's confidential knowledge. And he says, Pavitram, It is the purest, and uttamam, transcendental. And then he says, pratyaksha avagamam dharmyam. One understands this dharmyam, this principle of religion, by pratyaksha. Aksha means the eyes, and pratyaksha means right in front of your eyes. You see it directly. And then if you think it's hard, it's susukam. It makes you very happy. Susukam kartam avyayam, and it's everlasting. So this is this kind of special knowledge. So we have to think of our practice of Krishna consciousness not simply as some kind of religious exercise, but actually the principle of knowledge. And so that's what these four regulative principles are. And especially the practice of chanting Hare Krishna. Now, I particularly, I mean, a lot of people we'd like to do it together in a group, but also to me, japa is really important because it makes life simple. If you're in a kirtan, somebody's always falling down, singing out of tune, getting in your face, something, so many, you get distracted by so many things, but when it's japa, the arena of action is very simple. There's only 3 characters on stage. There's you, there's your mind, and there's the holy name. And the point of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is to focus the mind and focus the attention on the holy name. I found out that I didn't get, in the early days, didn't get so much instruction on this very clearly, although the instructions were there. It was easier to go outside in the streets and chant Hare Krishna. It was even easier to chant in a kirtan and so on. And then, and it was very hard. I remember when I was a new temple president, we had a bunch of devotees living in the temple, and I would made everybody stay in the temple room to chant their japa. People freaked out. People were always trying to leave, and they were always falling asleep. I got a squirt bottle, and I used to squirt them in the face when they would nod out while chanting. That's the thing I did it because it's hard to do. And when Krishna in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita talks about the yoga system, he says, Arjuna has an objection. It's very hard. The mind is difficult, terrible to control. It's like trying to control the wind. And he makes that objection. And Krishna doesn't say he's wrong, but he says it. But it's possible by right practice and correct determination. You can do it. So that's the chance to do it. And so I said when there's japa, there's the holy name, there's you, and there's this other thing which is your mind. And Prabhupada says that the yoga system deals with the mind. That's what it's really about, is about the mind. And the thing about the mind is, when we took birth, it came with us. When you change bodies, the subtle body comes with you. I mean, when the subtle body doesn't come with you, you're liberated. So that means the same subtle body has been with us for many, many, many lifetimes in the past. We don't know what's in there. There's a whole lot of stuff. So it was, in the beginning, it was good news to know that you're not the body. But then when I realized you're not the mind, that's even better news. Because we have prayers, the prayers of the mind. Oh, my mind, you are not a Vaishnava. It's got all these ideas in there, and it's crazy, actually. It's like living in the house with somebody who's out of their mind, So when you sit down to chant japa, you have to fix your attention on the holy name and keep it there. That's pure chanting. When the mind wanders, if you just let it wander, that's offensive. One person said to me once, oh, when I chant, I get so many good ideas. That's not good chanting. So the mind will wander and go and fantasize and go through all kinds of things, When you notice it's wandering, you bring it back. That's chanting on the clearing stage. There's 10 offenses about chanting, in the matter of chanting. And I believe it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that inattentiveness while chanting is the offense from which all the other offenses spring. So if we want to take this life and we want to get the most benefit out of it and make the most spiritual progress, when you do japa, it doesn't matter. It's just you, your mind, and the holy name. It's nice if you have a nice place to do it, but you can always, even if you don't have a temple, you can crawl under the stairs, or you can find some place where you can chant without being disturbed. And so we have to chant on the clearing stage, chant while trying to give up offenses. Now, I didn't know what would happen. I kind of had to figure this out for myself. Just the early days of the movement were sort of like that. And so I started to try to chant like that. And to see what would happen. And I really struggled really hard to chant like that. And I was expecting to feel bliss because our slogan was chant and be happy. And I noticed that as I chanted and concentrated more, I started to feel uneasy and nervous. And I thought, my God, what's going on? This is not supposed to happen, I mean, when you're in a kirtan, it's kind of easy to jump up and down and be kind of cheerful. But when you're by yourself and you're just chanting, and then what happened is this nervousness, this uneasiness is there. And I just didn't know what it was. And then I thought, maybe I'm just a demon who got into the Hare Krishna movement by mistake because everybody else is talking about being blissful. And I'm just something that this feeling of uneasiness while I'm chanting. And I didn't know what it was. And I thought, well, I'll just put up with it and endure it. And I didn't say anything to anybody about it, and I just put up with it. Then I found out a little later. One thing is the other thing that happened that really helped was, the Shashastika prayers of Lord Chaitanya, the ones that we chanted every morning, is the one that's right in the beginning of the introduction to Prabhupada's first Bhagavatam. After he has some forward material before he starts the Bhagavatam, he puts the translations of the five of the Shashastika prayers, the 8 prayers, and that's the one we said. And then I happened to notice that when the Chaitanya Charitamrita had come out, that the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada translated them differently. And hardly anybody even noticed, And so I was kind of interested to see that. And then when I finally got the time to sit down and really study the Shastika prayers, then I noticed that not only did it describe what that chapter does, shows Lord Chaitanya reciting these prayers to Ramananda Roy and Svarupa Damodar, two of his most confidential servants. He recites the prayers and he says things about them. The prayers, of course, in Sanskrit. What he says about it is in Bengali. And then sometimes it also says what he felt. So I just want to go through a few of those prayers. The first one lists the benedictions that come from chanting. When you see the translation in the Anchalila chapter 20, it starts with the end. Let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. But before that, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It cleanses the mirror of consciousness or the heart. Baba Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. So you don't know what it is. It just says something because the predicates are first and the subject is at the end. So something, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It's Sankirtan, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. And then Baba Mahadavagni Nirvapaman, and extinguishes the great forest fire of Baba, which is here material existence. So it's one simile after another. It is like something that polishes the mirror of the mind. It puts out the blazing fire of material existence. And then Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. It's the moon, Chandrika, it's the moonlight, which is spreading Vitaranam, the Kairava. Now he translates it here as lotus, but a Kairava is the night blooming lily. Lotuses bloom in the daytime. It's the Kairava, the lily, which blooms at night. And it's very fragrant. The white lily that blooms at night under the moonshine, very, very fragrant. And so here the holy name is that moonlight which considers our Shreya, our ultimate good fortune, the highest good, opens and opens up and makes everything fragrant and wonderful. Isn't I missed so far out? Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Now here Prabhupada just says is the life of transcendental knowledge, but the word Vadu is a wife, a bride, a young bride. The Vidya, which is a feminine noun here, Vidya is the bride, and Sankirtan is Jivana, the enlivener of the bride, that is to say, the bridegroom, the husband, the young husband. So there's a conjugal metaphor stuck in there, Vidya Vadu Jivanam. So this is one of the so it's and Prabhupada translates it, and all these translations are correct. He just said is the life and soul of all education, because Vidya, but Vidya is a feminine noun, but that conjugal metaphor doesn't come through in the translation, but there it is, huh? Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, it increases the ocean of Ananda. Just like a big tide comes in, the ocean gets bigger. Prabhupada, somewhere it says that the ocean generally doesn't get bigger, but this ocean gets bigger and bigger, you know. And then Pratipadam Purnamrita Svadanam, it is the gives a taste of Purnamrita, full nectar for sarva, for all. Atma Snapanam, it is the total bath of the self. Again, you're in the water. The whole self bathes everybody. And then Param Vijayate Sri Krishna. And so that way, this is the victory of Sankirtan. So if you go through this chapter, you'll see this breakdown of the but and so the second one is very interesting, because after that incredible symphonic opening, Nam Namakari Bahuda, Nidya Sarva, you have given so many names, Nidya Sarva Shaktis Tatarpita, and in those names you have put all your Sarva Shakti, all kinds of your potencies, your spiritual potencies. Tatarpita and Niyamata Smaranena Kalaha. There aren't any rules and restrictions about the time or the place of remembering them. You can chant them anytime, day and night. Gayatri, you know, dawn, noon, and sunset, you know, but for these, no consideration. Anytime you can chant them. Etadrishi Tavakipa, that is your mercy, Bhagavan. Etadrishi Tavakipa Bhagavan. And then Mamapi Durdaivam, Idrisamiha Janiraga. But my misfortune is my Durdaiva. This is your mercy, Tavakripa, Mama Durdaiva. That's the contract. This is your mercy. But my misfortune, Ihajani Naniraga, I still feel no attraction or attachment to those names. And that's when and then it says that when Lord Chaitanya chanted this verse, you could see it, read it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he felt dainya and vishada, grief and humility. And that's when I remembered back, yeah, it's bona fide. After all, I was feeling so uncomfortable. So nobody at that time knew to tell me, but these are verses of instruction. He's telling us how to chant, and he's telling us how. Yeah, okay, you can think here's the names, and still you have to force yourself to sit down and chant. Here he's done all this stuff, and still you're not interested. Yeah, feel bad about yourself. It's okay. And then you can see how the next verse follows. Okay, now there's some humility and Trinadapi Sunichena. You notice, I mean, the first verse is so elaborate, and this one's really simple. Trinadapi Sunichena. How can you chant these names? By becoming Sunicha, being lower than the straw. Trina, like the Trinavarta, the demon who whirls up the straw, the downtrodden grass, the dead grass. Trinadapi Sunichena, lower than that. And like a tree, you're tolerant. Amanina, without any pride for yourself. Manada, and giving respect to all others. In this way, Kirtaniya Sadahari, the holy name, is always to be chanted. So you can think of yourself as lower than this. Great, it's better we think like that. Better you think. if you feel uneasy thinking about yourself, you should understand. We should come to the understanding that humility is realism. And the antidote for that, because you know, when you start to think of yourself that way, you can feel bad about yourself. But somehow or other, you're feeling bad because you're chanting Hare Krishna. And this is what happened to me the first time. Is that when I was feeling so bad while chanting and didn't even want to tell anybody about it because I thought I didn't belong, I realized I felt that way because Prabhupada had come to the West with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And that, oh, I know, I would. Even at that time, I realized what I was feeling bad about was that I had turned away from Krishna and come to the material world. That was the early realization. And I thought all the devotees in the temple at that time were like very advanced because they were Hari Bol all the time, you know, wonderful, bliss, bliss, this, bliss, that. But I wasn't like that. I thought, wow, you know, I must be like a demon that's come snuck into the Hare Krishna movement, and I'm feeling this way. But but you know, somehow or other, even though I had turned away from Krishna, Krishna hadn't turned away from me because I'm chanting Hare Krishna, and because Prabhupada and all these people had taken the trouble to bring the Hare Krishna mantra to me. So I didn't feel rejected. And so that's how you get through this Trinadapi Sunichena. So then the next prayer now is Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitamba Jagadish Kame Mamma Janmani Janmani Shore Bhavatad Bhaktya Haitukitai. So here you're rejecting Dhanam, riches, Janam, people. Says here followers, but it could be, you know, Facebook friends, influencers, or whatever. Sundarim Kavitam. Here in the word for word, Prabhupada says, Sundarim, a beautiful wife, or fruit of activities described in flowery language. It can also mean beautiful verses, good literature, nice prose style, whatever, you know, these kind of things. Janmani Janmani Shore, life after life. So not even liberation now. Just let there be bhakti toward you. So this is the mood of chanting from the Shikshastika prayers, and let me just well, just might as well. So the next, now this word ai nanda tanuja, ai nanda tanuja. Ai is a very affectionate, according to the Sanskrit dictionary, I looked it up, it's used with intimate friends, ai. It's not like the comic book, ai, it's just, it's ai nanda tanuja. And Krishna especially likes it when he's addressed with the names of his devotees. So, son of Nanda, Tanuja, from the born from the body of Nanda. I am your servant, and I have fallen into this rough ocean of bhava, material existence. Kripaya tava pada pankaja, and then please, by your mercy, think of me as one of the little motes of dust clinging to your lotus feet, like that. So you notice as you go through these, one last thing, humility increases as he goes through. And then then there's this, also the stages leading to prema. The next is bhava, nayanam garadashu. When will it happen? It's in the future tense. Tavanama grahane bhavishyati. When, by chanting your rounds, your names, will my eyes fill with tears, my voice go gagada, gagaga. It's like choked up. My voice become choked up, and my hairs stand on end. When will this happen? And then the seventh verse. Separation, because of separation from you. Yugaitam, every blink of an eye, every nimishena is like a yuga. My eyes are filled with tears. The whole world is empty because of your separation. And then the next is union, but again, it's union with feelings of separation attached. Aslishyava padaratam vinastumam adarshanan marmahatam. Marma is the places in your body where, like if you got a martial arts chart, you hit somebody and they die. That's a marma. Ayurvedic medicine also, the marmas. Marmahatam, yeah. Hit me in the marma. You can do that broken-hearted. Whatever you do like that, you're just a lampato, you're just a playboy. You know, but still you're my prananath, the Lord of my life, and there will be no one else. These are these prayers. So when you read the last, and then he goes into a song, and it explains more about the like a purport on the Shashastika prayers. So this makes things very, very simple. So here we simply have to sit down. We have to chant the holy name, and if we just do this one thing, we're showing Krishna that we want to have a relationship with him, and we try to pay attention. The mind will go away. Say, Krishna, that's my mind. I'm really fallen. I've been running away from you for so many lifetimes. I'll fix it again. You can cry to Krishna. You can feel bad about yourself. It's okay. Just cry to Krishna, and then you'll see some things. Things will start to happen. Krishna, because the other thing is that as bad as we may want Krishna, Krishna wants us more than we want him. And it's very interesting that he wants a relationship with everyone. I mean, he's got so many great devotees, so many wonderful devotees, but still, because he's unlimited, he wants a relationship. And when that relationship, as Krishna becomes revealed to us, we also become revealed to ourselves. That happens simultaneously, and so that's our method of. So it's really anyway. The point is, all you need is to sit down with some beads, and you have devotees around you that helps usually. And you just chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and don't quit. Just put your name, put your attention on the name. Keep that up. Mind wanders, bring it back. Mind wanders, bring it back, and don't give up. And you're just by that perseverance, you're showing Krishna you want that relationship. And then Prabhupada said one time, for every step we take to Krishna, he takes, I've heard different numbers, so many steps toward us. So he also wants us back, and he also will make arrangements for us to remove any kind of obstacles that stand in our way of spiritual advancement. And the other thing to do to make Krishna really happy is try to give it to others. Help either go out on Sankirtan or book distribution, or have some preaching program, or just help devotees. That'll also make him very, very happy. So maybe I'll stop there and just give me, I mean, this to me is the kind of basic, real essence of Krishna consciousness.
Thank you very much, Ravindra Prabhu. If anyone has any comments or questions, perhaps we can open that up. You can raise your hand, or you can chat in the chat box if you'd like. Ravindra Prabhu, I had a question. Perhaps you could elaborate. You had started out on this point of the four regulative principles and how they're not merely moral principles, and Srila Prabhupada also called them the regulative principles of freedom. If you could perhaps elaborate on some ways on how they end up freeing us while externally they look like they're restricting. What are some of the freedoms that are afforded?
Freedom from birth, death, old age, and disease. That's one freedom. I mean, people really don't like those, do they? I mean, I'm 75 years old now. I can tell you, it's not a picnic. So that's what we get free of. Mrityu samsara, Vartmani. We're on this path of mrityu and samsara over and over again. We're also so restricted in our happiness. No matter what we do for our happiness, you can't, because of those things. When I was interesting book came out when I was a new devotee called The Denial of Death, and has all about the things most human life is based on various sorts of immortality projects. Why does somebody want to be famous? Why does somebody want their name to be known? Why do they want their faces carved in the sides of mountains? Why do they at least want a tombstone that's, something there? They've all got some kind of immortality project, So those are the things that when he says they're principles of freedom, and it sounds like a contradiction in terms, or regulative principles of freedom. But once you practice them, and first, of course, because of our bad habits in this life and previous lives, it's a struggle, but it's really the worthwhile struggle. And you're not alone, because Krishna will help you. Krishna sees that you want to come. He'll do things to make it easier for you. There's so many people. People are so unhappy in their lives. There's so much addiction and so much, breaking the four regulative principles, only looking for happiness, and no one's satisfied. It's just not there. The suicide rates keep going up, and all these things. People are disappointed. So this is they really are the regulative principles of freedom, and it's worth the effort. And the other thing, of course, is we're assured that whatever progress you make, even if you don't complete the process in this life, next birth you'll begin where you left off. That goes with you. So you'll get born in a Vaishnava family and things like that, like Prabhupada was, for example. And even when he was a child, he was able to worship deities. These kind of things will happen more and more too. We're going to have all these Vaishnavas being born. We better be ready for them in our next lives too. have to help them out.
Thank you. There's a question from Gail. No class is complete without a question from Gail. So Gail Mataji, please go ahead.
I missed those questions. It's been a long time.
No, I know, Maharaj, it's been a long time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's only that I missed your point when you mentioned how interesting it was that there was a difference in the translation, of the, I think it was of the Shikshastakam in the CC there. Do you remember that part?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, what was the point there?
Well, I have a lot of different translations, actually. If I don't have the, I can show you. Anyway, I have Bhakti Siddhanta translated it once too, also. But in the CC, there's this translation. But if you look at the one that's in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, the first chapter, first book of the Bhagavatam, there's a preface and an introduction, and then Prabhupada has the Shikshashtaka prayers of Lord Chaitanya, just the English translation. And that's the one that's, in a lot of temples, they still recite that one because that's the one we used to always do. And when I got a hold of Chaitanya Charitamrita, when it finally came out, I realized Prabhupada had translated it again. And here we have a word for word. There, the Shikshashtaka prayers in the Bhagavatam, there's not even the Sanskrit. It's just the English that's there with these 6 prayers. But that's the ones that we always chanted. So it was interesting to see how Prabhupada had retranslated it. And I was just remarking on that. Mm-hmm. And these are very rich verses, and you can translate them many ways, and they're all different. When I studied English literature, they have a word polysemous. Something has many meanings, and they're all valid if they're favorable toward Krishna consciousness anyway.
So you think Prabhupada was simply trying to give the verse from different angles?
Yeah, I think so. And their purposes were different. The first was just what he did in the preface to the Bhagavatam, the first volume. If you look at it, he tells the life of Lord Chaitanya. He gives an overview of Lord Chaitanya's life, just to give some idea, because that's not in the Bhagavatam. But we are following Lord Chaitanya, and it's Lord Chaitanya who really made the Bhagavatam very central. And so there's a capsule, a short life of Lord Chaitanya, and then that ends with the Shikshashtaka prayers. Actually, that's the conclusion of this little narration of Lord Chaitanya's life, just to give you some idea of it. Because then, of course, in his commentary, he's always quoting Lord Chaitanya, referring to Lord Chaitanya. So he does that first. So that was one purpose for putting it there. So then later on, we get the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita itself translated rigorously with verse by verse and synonyms and running translation, and therefore the Shikshashtaka prayers is there again. So you have to remember, Prabhupada came, when he actually came to America, he was already old. He didn't know how much time he would have. He didn't know. He puts a whole lot of stuff into that first canto because he didn't know how long he was going to live. I mean, to be 70 years old to start off on that adventure when you've never been outside of India before, and to get on a cargo ship, passenger, as one of the few passengers was quite a thing to do. And so he didn't seem to know what the future would be. So he just did the best he could with that, you know. So then when he had time, he went back and filled out more of what he wanted to express. And he also mentioned somewhere that people wondered at him spinning 3 volumes for just one canto of the Bhagavatam, but he said, that's not enough, you know. He said in the heavenly planets, they go through thousands of volumes of Bhagavatam.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gail. The question in the chat room from Hari Prasad Prabhu. Hari Prasad Prabhu asks, how can I personally experience in my life that Krishna wants to be with me more than I want to be with him? My conditioning and lack of perception can make that feel so theoretical so often, and it will be extraordinary to experience this reality firsthand.
I say the last sentence again.
Yeah, so the last sentence, my conditioning and lack of perception can make that feel so theoretical. The fact that, you know, Krishna wants to be with me more so often, and it would be extraordinary to experience this reality firsthand.
Well, you know it's true because, again, you see Prabhupada and so many devotees have gone out of the way to bring Krishna consciousness to you, and you just have to accept it that Krishna wants all of us back. I mean, this is something Prabhupada has told us that he wants. I mean, Krishna is so amazing that he wants to have loving relationships with every single jiva. And remember, we're just a tiny little, you know, minority here in the material world. Meanwhile, in the spiritual world, there's a real party going on, and Krishna is always expanding. We were in a New Vrindavan once for I guess it was Janmashtami in New Vrindavan, I think. And Prabhupada was looking at what are the names? Radha Vrindavan Chandra? No, yeah, Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And he was remarking how Krishna is so merciful because they've come to America and they look just like an American boy and girl. He's Radha Vrindavan Chandra. And then he says, looking at the devotees, looking at the deities, he says, actually, they're always increasing. He says, Radha looks at Krishna and she sees how beautiful Krishna is. And when she sees how beautiful he is, her happiness increases. And because her happiness increases, she becomes more beautiful. And then when Krishna sees that Radha has become even more beautiful, his joy increases and his beauty increases. And then when Radha sees Krishna's become even more beautiful, and so it goes on and there's no stop. So he's always increasing. And so he wants to do that. His bliss and his joy and his happiness and his beauty are always increasing. And it increases more when we join in.
Thank you, Prabhu. We have one more question from Nandana Acharya Prabhu. Nandana Acharya Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for the class. My question, you mentioned about feeling uneasy or nervous, and then realizing that was a sort of a sign of progress that you were making. So I was wondering if there were any other indicators or signposts, if you were, that kind of help us understand whether or not we're making progress in spiritual life or in our chanting. So if you could just share any of those. Thank you.
May be different for different people. But anything that just seems to. I mean, this wasn't what I was led to expect, but it just turned out to be something that was, you know. That's one of the signs of you're thinking about yourself is humility increases, you know, and I just wasn't ready for that. And of course, when humility is real, it seems like realism, you know, and you get kind of, it doesn't bother you anymore when you just accept it. Okay, you know, I'm a fallen soul. Why did I mean, here I was with Krishna in the sport. Now I'm down here. What did I do wrong? I blew it. Okay, you know, and a devotee who, if we get a little more advanced in Krishna consciousness, we don't mind being worthless. But we do see that somehow or other we're valuable to Krishna. So that's what makes us feel okay, because somehow or other Krishna wants us. So that's a kind of unexpected sign. But you know, the rule is that when something favorable for Krishna consciousness is there, you accept it, and something that's unfavorable, you reject it. That's our principle of accepting and rejecting, and you just keep adding those things. And I would say, if it's a struggle, don't quit. At least, you know, if you don't quit, you don't give up. It shows Krishna that you are really wanting Krishna consciousness, and therefore, sometime Krishna's mercy will come. Another thing that's good to remember is that Krishna is in charge of timing. Sometimes you don't know why he waits, or sometimes you don't know why he comes so fast. You know, but he makes arrangements, and those are his arrangements. You accept it, it's your arrangement, and you do everything you can do. My experience is, and not just mine, but others, once we've done everything we can do in the circumstances we're in, Krishna will change our circumstances. And even Prabhupada said something. What was it? I think when he came to Vrindavan, this is right. When he first came to Vrindavan, he had to go through so much to get there. You know, I mean, he had a family. Family hated. Some of his family hated him because he, you know, gave up all this prospect. His wife hated him because he gave up this big job of being a guy for the pharmaceutical company, one of the big owners of it. And he took sannyas. He did so many things, you know, to finally got to Vrindavan. He got gored by a cow. That's what happened. First he gets there and gets gored by a cow. And he said, when he told about this, he said, I accepted that it was Krishna's mercy, but I couldn't understand it, how it was Krishna's mercy. Then he said, later I understood. When I told somebody this story, he said, oh, did he tell you what it was? And I said, no. Because he didn't say, just I accepted it. I understood how it was. I assumed it was none of my business.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. So there's a couple more questions. I think we have about enough time for 3 short questions, if that's okay. And that's about it. So there's one question. Prabhu, how does one know that the relationship with Krishna is increasing, even if the taste in my chanting is not, even after many years? Or is it increasing?
it should be just by persevering, you're showing Krishna. But you should, if the taste isn't getting better, you should look at yourself and see what you're doing. And if you have somebody that you have a confidential relation with, and somebody that knows you, ask them. It's okay to ask for help. Somebody maybe a little more advanced, or at least doesn't have the same faults you do, to point it out. Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to do.
Thank you. Gaur Kumar asks, you mentioned two things that are very dear to Krishna. One is preaching, second is serving devotees. Which is more dear to Krishna? Is there a specific reference?
No, I don't know of any specific reference. It's good if you can do both. And if you can't preach, you can serve a devotee who is preaching, and so on.
Okay, one last question from Athena. Athena, go ahead. You can ask your question.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. When you had mentioned that Krishna loves us more than we love him, and he's always wanting us to come back to him, it made me think about the Nitya Bandhas, the eternally conditioned or bound souls. And I would love to understand, I guess, how Krishna knows that, or why he, I don't know if it's the right word to create that, if he loves us so much. And in one sense, us not returning to him right away is our free will. So at any point in time, a soul can go back to Krishna. So how are they always eternally bound? And then in one sense as well, excuse me, this question twofold is, if the nature of the soul is to always go back to Krishna, then why are there even souls perpetually conditioned if we ultimately are always supposed to go back to Krishna?
I don't think perpetually or eternally means you don't go back. It just means for a very, very, very long time. There's always arguments about how we fell down and where, and all of that stuff, and that's a whole big subject to get into. But Prabhupada did say in a letter, we were with Krishna in his Leela or sport. And then people think, well, how can you possibly fall down if you were there? So it's a little bit difficult to know, except that you may have not had been a very, anyway, some so when he says eternally, I think it just means for a very, very long time. You may have been with Krishna, you could somehow have left, or not been in the highest possible position, or I just don't know. I mean, these things I don't know how it works. And all we know is now we're trying to go back, and that's what we really want to focus our attention on, and not to worry so many times about. This is Prabhupada's instruction. Don't worry about how you fell or how you came. That's not really our attention. Shouldn't be on that. It's what I do to go back, and really all you have to know is the next step you need to take. If you look at the whole thing, it may be overwhelming, but if you just take the next step, then you'll show that you have some real interest.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Athena, and thank you, Ravindra Svarupa again. So we're just going to have a brief announcement of upcoming events, and then we'll open it up for all the devotees to thank you and just say a quick Haribol. So our weekend starts off tomorrow with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami has been giving lecture series on the first canto of the Bhagavatam for a couple of months now, and it's Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So be sure to join for that 8 p.m. tomorrow, and of course all of next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. on the same channel. And then on Saturday morning at 11 a.m., we have His Grace Kripa Moya Prabhu, maintaining enthusiasm in one's bhakti. His Grace Kripa Moya Prabhu from the UK is a very dynamic preacher and a very senior leader in our movement. And then Saturday evening at 8 p.m., His Holiness Devamrita Swami, who is our GBC here. And so he'll be speaking at 8 p.m. And then on Sunday evening at 6 p.m., His Grace Anuttama Prabhu, who is the GBC Minister for Communications, and he'll be talking about the importance of good communications between devotees. So I think you have some very interesting speakers. And I will pass on the microphone to His Grace Nilmani Prabhu to give a word of thanks, and then we can open it up. And I also want to thank His Grace Yashadullah Prabhu for helping us coordinate with so many speakers. Thank you, Yashadullah Prabhu. So Nilmani Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhuji, thank you so much again for coming on and giving us a wonderful class. So nice to hear classes from all senior devotees such as yourself. So I'm very honored and grateful that you could make the time for us. And we'll look to see if this situation continues much longer. We'd like to invite you back again for another class at some point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if you'd like, you can unmute yourself and say a quick Haribol and mute yourself again. And thank you again, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu. And we'll look forward to hearing you again. Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you so much again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Well,
Hare
look at
Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Very nice.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Hare Krishna, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu. Thank you for your time and give us your association. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ravindra Svarupa Prabhu, for your time and association. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Oh, there they are.
There he is. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ravindra Svarupa
Good to
Prabhu.
see you both.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Haribol, thank you so
Hey, Hare
much.
Krishna. Thanks a lot.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Haribol.
thank you so much.
Hey, Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol.
Yeah, Haribol. Thank you. Haribol.